All right, let's dive into what's happening in the next evolution of decentralized finance, or DeFi 2.0. We're going to look at the key projects that are really shaping this new wave. We'll see how the original giants are evolving and how a whole new class of innovators are basically rewriting the playbook for a more sustainable future.
The first wave of DeFi was wild. It was this chaotic, brilliant explosion of growth. Think yield farming, right? Where everyone was just jumping from protocol to protocol, chasing these insane returns. It was all about high inflation and some pretty risky experiments. They proved the concept could work, sure, but they weren't really built to last. So the huge question is, what comes after that initial gold rush? Well, that's where DeFi 2.0 comes in. This next phase isn't just about growing for the sake of growth. Nope. This is about building a mature financial system, one that's way more efficient, way more secure, and actually designed for the long haul.
And it all really starts with the original titans of the space. They are not standing still, believe me. They're adapting, and they're leading the charge into this new era.
First step, we've got to talk about Aave. A lot of people might still think of it as just a simple place to lend and borrow, but it is totally transformed into something way more fundamental. It's become a true liquidity engine for the entire DeFi ecosystem. So, what Aave is doing is systematically fixing the old problems from DeFi 1.0. Its big V3 upgrade is all about capital efficiency and much tighter risk controls. It's also spreading its wings, moving across multiple chains, and even pulling in real-world assets like invoices. Then you've got features like E-Mode for super efficient borrowing and its GHO stablecoin, which is creating a whole ecosystem on Aave's own secure foundation.
And that's really the heart of it. Aave is building the core infrastructure for lending that's safer and can actually scale. This isn't about chasing crazy yields anymore. This is about building a robust financial system that can last.
Okay, next up, Curve Finance. So if Aave is the engine, then you have to think of Curve as the absolute liquidity backbone of DeFi. It started out as this really specialized exchange just for stablecoins, but now its influence is just everywhere. The real genius of Curve is its economic design. I mean, the famous V-token model gets everyone, the protocol and its long-term token holders, pulling in the same direction. That creates incredibly deep and reliable liquidity. It also pioneered so-called bribe markets, where other projects will literally pay to get Curve's massive liquidity pointed at their own pools. You combine that with its own sophisticated stablecoin, CROV-USD, and you've got a system that's just built for stability.
And this really nails Curve's role today. It's not just a place to trade anymore. It's a foundational infrastructure layer that other protocols are literally building on top of, just to access its deep, reliable liquidity.
Of course, we cannot have this conversation without talking about Uniswap. The original automated market maker, the AMM that started it all, has also gone through a massive transformation, moving way beyond its simple swap origins.
Uniswap v3 was a total game changer. Concentrated liquidity made it possible for liquidity providers to be so much more capital efficient, but they didn't stop there. They introduced protocol fees to create a sustainable revenue stream, and the new hook architecture lets developers build custom stuff, like dynamic fees or limit orders, right into the liquidity pools themselves.
So the main takeaway here is that Uniswap has evolved from a simple tool for swapping tokens into this incredibly sophisticated and customizable marketplace for liquidity. It's now a platform for financial innovation, not just a place for a simple trade. Okay, so that's the giants, but beyond them, a whole new class of projects has popped up. These protocols were literally born from the lessons and the mistakes of DeFi 1.0, and they're built specifically for this more mature ecosystem. And you absolutely cannot talk about this new class without talking about Lido finance. It has become the undisputed king of liquid staking, a concept that is just completely central to how DeFi 2.0 works. So, why is this such a big deal? Well, before Lido, if you wanted to stake your ETH, you had to lock it up. It was just sitting there, unusable. Lido completely changed that. It gives you a token, stETH, which represents your staked ETH. And all of a sudden, you could earn your staking yield while also using that same capital all across DeFi for lending, borrowing, whatever. It's like the holy trinity. You get yield, utility, and liquidity all at the same time. Another key innovator here is Frax Finance. This protocol is maybe the best example of the whole DeFi 2.0 philosophy. Learn from the mistakes of the past and then build something that's smarter, stronger, and way more sustainable. This slide really says it all, doesn't it?
The old DeFi 1.0 model of purely algorithmic stablecoins, it was incredibly fragile. It relied on constantly printing more tokens as incentives just to survive. The DeFi 2.0 model, which Frax really pioneered, is a hybrid approach. It's heavily backed by collateral, it's focused on having deep liquidity to keep it stable, and it's designed to generate real yield from its assets, instead of just printing tokens out of thin air.
So Frax is a direct answer to the spectacular failures we saw with some of those early algorithmic stablecoins. It represents this fundamental shift toward economic models that are just more robust, built on actual collateral, real yield, and deep liquidity.
Now, we've mentioned liquidity a bunch, and that brings us to one of the single most important ideas in all of DeFi 2.0, protocol-owned liquidity, or POL. This concept, which was pioneered by a project called OlympusDAO, just flipped the old model completely on its head. Instead of endlessly paying users to rent their liquidity, the protocol uses these things called bonding mechanisms to actually buy that liquidity and own it forever.
And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, while Olympus itself had a bit of a rocky history, this one core idea, Paul, was absolutely revolutionary. It created a real path to sustainability. It ended that reliance on just printing tokens, and it created a permanent, stable base of liquidity. You see this model being adopted pretty much everywhere now.
And finally, there's a whole group of other projects that are quietly building out the deeper infrastructure, the plumbing that makes this entire ecosystem actually work more efficiently. We're seeing projects like Tokemak creating sustainable ways to direct liquidity exactly where it's needed most. You've got Balancer, which allows for automated portfolio management with its super innovative pool designs. GMX is a huge leader in decentralized perpetuals, generating real yield for its users. And even the original DeFi giant, MakerDAO, is pushing forward by bringing real-world assets into its treasury.
So when you zoom out and look at the big picture, it becomes really clear. DeFi 2.0 is defined by this massive shift towards sustainability and real yield. It's about being smarter with capital. It's about actively managing risk. It's about making sure the incentives of the protocol and its users are aligned for the long term. And it's all built on a foundation of deep protocol-owned liquidity.
The pace of innovation here is just incredible. These protocols are building a financial system that's so much more robust than what we saw just a few years ago. But, every evolution comes with new challenges. So what are the hidden complexities and the new risks that come along with all this progress? Well, we'll tackle that next time.
This is DeFi Evolving. Visit Web3 Newswire for more updates on Web3 projects. Link is in the bio.